Starlink, see if it works any better.
That's
so
better.
it seems to be a little bit better. So yeah, Carrie, thanks for coming on. We've had some great shows together, and you've always, are pushing the envelope on consciousness and bringing more information in. So Iran is one of those places where they're not Anunnaki, seem to have marked their presence and influenced for quite some time. Let's talk about that. What are your views on that? And I'll share some of mine.
Okay. All right. That'll be fun to do. So basically, I just want to say that I did write an article about this subject, and actually a few articles. I've been actually going down the Anunnaki rabbit hole, I guess you might say, for the last month or two, and also investigating. I don't know if you know Uri Geller and Andrija Puharich and their work. And so I was reading a book about Uri and actually inviting him on my show. No luck so far, but he is seeing my emails. So the reason I bring them up at this point, and yes, that's one of the articles I did write, is because they, all those years ago, believe it or not, back in the 70s when Uri was quite popular, and they got involved with Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ at SRI, and you probably know all about that as well. They were actually in contact with a group of what ended up to be called the Nine, or the Nine Intelligences. And they claim to be on the far edges of what one might call this simulation. I think that's what they said. I mean, they, back in those days, they didn't use the word AI, so they said they were computer intelligences, which obviously, they're quite advanced, an old race. There seemed to be some pretty direct parallels with the Anunnaki. Right. Although I don't think that connection has been proven. I know that Uri is out there right now talking about the Galactic Federation, which my understanding is that Galactic Federation is a federation of many different races. That particular group has a lot of negative, what we call negative ETs, or regressive, or there are different words for them, but the bad guys and some of them, and maybe a few good guys. Okay, that's my understanding, and I think it's borne out so far. But so I'm just saying that when we talk about the Anunnaki and we go back in time, they're credited with a lot of the stuff that has happened, as you may know, and yet there's also. Okay, so that's when I wrote that article you brought up on the screen, having to do with their Pleiadian connection. Yeah, so my understanding is that the Anunnaki were originally Pleiadians. They went rogue. They left this group, left the planet, the galaxy, I guess, Pleiades, and they went to and took over Nibiru. At that point, they were invaded by the Draco reptilians, who are were the arch enemies, and still are the arch enemies of the Pleiadians. And the way the takeover happens is through genetics. So they don't necessarily come into a place, a colony, or whatever, a planetoid, and take it over physically. My understanding is it's mainly through genetics. So that's how they operate. That's how they came here on Earth, and also decided to mess with our genetics. They like to claim that they created us, and they've got a little story about, it's not the Adam and Eve story, because it's way before that, but it's, fashioning out of clay and then adding some gods. They called it the god's blood, which meant their blood. And one other thing, which I forget what it is, but anyway, the point being is that they claim they fashioned us out of that. I think that that's a lie, a genetics lie, if you will, because I think what they did is cross our bloodline, their bloodline with ours. Now, if you understand this at all, then you will know that that means that the Anunnaki are actually Pleiadian, which is, you could say, humanoid reptilian hybrids. All right. So they were already a hybrid race. They came to our planet, invaded us, and then they started to mess with our genetics and to create this humans, so-called human, which is man of many colors, races, and influence the races with their genetics to different degrees. And, I can get more into that. I know I might be really like so into this.
Yeah, you've opened up a really good, line here. I have memories of being an Anunnaki.
Oh, all right.
And actually being on Nibiru, and then coming here to Earth and helping and so forth. And I believe that we're still communicating. We're still dealing with the Anunnaki.
Yes.
You showed a couple looked like Anunnaki with President Trump, and of course that's just CGI.
Well, somebody says, yeah, but they could be. Actually, there's no reason why they couldn't be real. I mean,
Sure,
I
absolutely.
understand that Simon Parks thinks they're CGI or whatever. Everyone does, but I think they're realistic enough that they could be real. And who cares whether, if they really do exist and they are 9 feet tall or taller, what do they look like? And then you look at the temple carvings in Iraq, Iran, and a lot of the Middle Eastern temples, and you can see that what they look like. Now, in those drawings or painting or carvings, sorry, they don't have straight blonde hair, but that may be the Pleiadians. So, but it's a different look at Pleiadians, or it may be another race of Nordics. You understand, as you know. But continue what you were going to just say about your experience with them.
Yeah, so I had more of a recent one here in Lake Tahoe. This was probably about a little over 6 years ago, out on the lake, and I was beamed up on one of the ships, and I remember talking to. At first, I thought it was a Nordic, but now that I've been a little bit further into this, she was Anunnaki, and there were humans like us, like it's probably. Air Force types in uniform around us while we were speaking. And I was on her same level. So she's like, 8-10 feet tall, whatever. And the other crew members are small compared to her. But I was on her same level. So when I start to look at it a little bit deeper, I believe that when I left Lake Tahoe and I was beamed up on the ship, I basically went into my form, because I'm in the secret space program and all that kind of stuff. And I thought I was just in my hybridized, form of, super soldier. But I believe that now that I've looked at it a little bit more, that I went into my Anunnaki body.
Yeah, and that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. And so, reading your information kind of like, just started opening more of that consciousness, that those doors for me. So you're doing an amazing job. Good job.
Well, I have to say, I have a psychic connection with them. Have had since I was, I think, quite young. Now I have my own little experiences, not quite like yours though. So in one of my communications or interactions with them, I actually I was in a place with red. The earth was red, and I was standing beside a river, and I was thinking of crossing the river, and there was all of a sudden, a tall being came and put their foot down next to me, and I guess I was human size, but they were much taller, much bigger. I would say 9 to 12 feet, either way. One, I can't judge between the two, but exactly. Whatever. And communicated with me. So at the time I was thinking of moving to Sedona, And the being basically said, yes, you can do that. That's a good idea for now. And I did move there, and I had instantly got a wonderful house for quite a low price, where I was staying in a much smaller apartment, not very interesting in LA prior to that. So it was really fun. It was I don't know if you know the Red Rock area and all that stuff, but
Mhm.
it was, I think it's called Red Rock Canyon or whatever. And there's a subdivision there. And it's this beautiful, super modern pink house. It's pink. And it has big windows, and it's very cool, very
Wow.
modern. And so anyway, I stayed there for about, I think it was up to 9 months or a year. I'm not sure the exact timing. And then it was time to go back to LA. So that was one of my things. Another thing I've had is that ever since I started Project Camelot, I had the back of my mind, it was constantly bothering me and saying, somehow in my back of my mind, you have to go down the road of the Anunnaki. You have to go investigate them.
Yep.
And yet when I was originally doing Project Camelot, there was no time because we got bombarded from the get-go, and I was so busy night and day that I didn't have time for that kind of investigation, which has now become much easier because I guess you know this, and I've been posting them around, but there's a group somewhere, and I don't know how they came about or anything, but they are now revealing new discoveries about the Anunnaki, or releasing them, calling them new, and they probably were around for a long time. They knew about them, but the general public did not. So now it's just very interesting, along with so-called disclosure, that they've come out with these videos. Have you been watching them at all?
Yeah, quite a few of them. So, and I think of the reason why we're seeing so much now, because a lot of people are like, why don't they do the disclosure? It's like, if they'd done it on the level that most people believe it could happen, it would blow everybody away. So consciousness has to reach a certain level, and then they inject more information. That's why we're seeing more and more information starting to stream in now, because humankind's consciousness is really lifting quite rapidly now.
Yes, I do agree with that. Although I have, my book, Rebel Gene, I have a rebellious spirit in regard to all of this. And so I see a little bit maybe darker side to that.
Oh, yeah.
But I definitely see humans' consciousness allowing for this. I mean, I do agree, that we as a race of beings have a consciousness that we share, whether we like it or not. And so we do have to sort of wait until a certain group of us, a certain number, right, a strategic number, will catch up. And there will always be stragglers and all of that. So what I wanted to say about it is that what happens is they are, okay, so then this gets into 3i Atlas, and you might have, you and I don't necessarily agree on 3i Atlas, but I've seen what I've seen. And I tend to have quite good accuracy. I'm not a formal remote viewer like you, but I am I did study it, and I have absolute proof of hits, that I've gotten.
Good.
And my abilities have grown. And then at the same time, I did tap in, I try to keep touch with the remote viewing groups, right?
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean all of them. It means the Future Forecasting Group. I've interviewed, what's his name? I just drew a blank. The guy who runs it, Dick Algeier. He's pretty much the principal.
Great guy, yeah.
Former military. You may even know him, but if he's a former military, for the sake of the audience, military remote viewer, and so was Dad Smith. And some of the other players that have joined them since then. Now, they have become what I consider to be way too expensive to actually have joined. I used to be part of their group to view their all their viewings, which I really do enjoy. However, they raised their price and changed their whole website. I don't know, about a year ago, and so now I can't afford them. But they're doing teasers out there, right? And see, one of the things I do, and then the other ones are Courtney Brown. And Courtney Brown, they used to work for Courtney Brown back in the day. And then when he wanted to go the direction of the ETs, they backed away. So they formed their own thing, and they're more money oriented, actually. I don't know. They probably wouldn't like that designation. They like to
do crypto and a lot of that stuff too.
Yeah, crypto, all that kind of prediction kind of stuff.
Yep.
But they still do remote view, all sorts of things, and they're very good at it. Both groups are quite excellent. Both groups have excellent track records.
I agree.
And so on. So what I found myself doing is remote viewing the remote viewers and their evidence. Okay. And so I would get information, and, you know, I don't know. Some people might disagree with it. They might not like what I have to say, but basically I would actually know how accurate they are. I will also get, sort of more information. So it's kind of like I'm almost going through a channel to reach their data. Okay. Anyway, it's just kind of what happened. And so recently I was looking at the Courtney Brown stuff and saw that back in, I guess might have been even 2023, but they were talking about the years 2024 and 2025. And I just stumbled on it now. And I think I'm sent things, you know, I'm sent to certain things to see. So basically they were talking about the ETs, the so-called negative and the positive were going to have a war, and they were preparing for it. And they were talking about that in their remote viewings, and they were set the target to look at that preparation. Sort of a strange target, if you ask me. But anyway, so the viewers did, and you can go watch it if you're interested and stuff. I think I linked it on my article. But the thing is that what they came up with was some interesting pieces. One, that the bad guys had far more troops than the good guys. So that's interesting. And the other is that they were only viewing up till, I think it was August of 2025. And they weren't looking at 2026. So all of that was preparation. The actual war was going to happen after August 2025. And voila, here we have, you know, an escalating war with Iran and so on and so forth. So that led me down the road that I have already investigated, which, you know, I think we had a show about it, but where I said it's not about nukes, it's about stargates. And I knew already through my own viewing and psychic intuition and downloads that I'm getting, which I get a lot of downloads nowadays. It's crazy, but they do prove to be right so far, a lot of them. So I knew that was going on, and I thought we were still, I guess I kind of had, I mean, I knew they were fighting over the Stargates, but I didn't think we had actual, you know, alien craft coming and you know, doing battles in Iraq so overtly. I figured it was just kind of military standoffs, you know, over the gates and all of that. But it turns out that there's an out and out battle taking place in Iran right now that they're lying about, right? And covering up, which is driving me crazy. Because, you know, I think people should know. See, here we are in the eve of disclosure, and yet they're not telling the most obvious. They're still wondering if we have bodies, you know. And I actually wrote to somebody was out there talking about this, and I said on X, and I said, well, this is ridiculous. Oh, I know. I also wrote to that guy, Clayton Morris. Is that his name? Clayton Morris, the redacted guy. Because he was posting on X, and I said, here you are, you're still talking about, do we have bodies, and trying to prove that, when, of course, in Camelot, in what I do, we had whistleblower testimonies going way back on reverse engineered craft, bodies, and this and that. I mean, so this is just a no-brainer at this point. of course, I know I'm ahead of the curve, as are you, but nonetheless, it's still very annoying to have these people out there who are supposed to be pretty smart. I think he's a pretty smart guy.
I
He,
think he's seeding. I think he seeds a lot. I've watched him too, and I kind of
yeah,
like got away from him because he's seeding disinformation.
yeah. I mean, I think he's playing very safe,
Yeah,
the Illuminati
I mean, he
thing.
still has good people that come on and reveal
Yeah,
good
no, he
stuff,
does.
and that's the way
But
they continue their stuff. Kind of like Megyn Kelly and Candace Owens and Tucker
yeah,
Carlson.
yeah, yeah.
They've destroyed themselves, and I see him come on Sean Ryan's show. He tries to like legitimize him again. So I'm like, Sean, you're part of the bullshit too. It's like I always thought you were good, but so you see all these people that are exposing themselves.
It's true. And the thing is that so I said basically get this in your mind. I mean, you probably heard the story a million times like I have, but that Nixon showed Jackie Gleason the bodies in the base in Florida underground, and it changed his whole life, according to his
Right.
wife, and
Yep.
his whole, picture of the future, whatever of his future. And that was so long ago that it's just insane that we're still at that step in these podcasters who just will not get on board and understand or listen seriously to people like Grush and other people that really have the goods, not to mention all my whistleblowers going back years, right?
Incredible. Yeah.
20 years. So, I mean, Clifford Stone is certainly very famous as talking about the reverse engineered craft and communicating with the crashed retrievals and the aliens. That was his job, so it just is so insane. And when you bring up Sean Ryan, now I'm going to say something here. It's fairly controversial. I like Sean Ryan. I have nothing against him whatsoever. Actually, I like Clayton as well. But the thing is that what bothers me is how I guess they're under military and
Right.
coercion to do what they do. But there's an interesting show that if you haven't seen it, I recommend it. You might have some fun with it because maybe you saw it. It's Sean Ryan interviewing this guy. What's his name? Blake. Oh God, I'm going to get his name wrong. Anyway, and he is the expert on mind control. And it was a fairly recent show. But what's fascinating, did you see it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, to me, it was fascinating. I am a big observer of human behavior. And I also studied acting and directing all those years ago when I lived in New York City and was trying to pursue that path. So I know when I'm watching somebody, like, their body language, everything that comes across, and I watch all that. Well, Sean was just so nervous in that show. Now he covers it well, but I could tell that he was actually quite nervous over that show. And he was, he wasn't able to put together a sentence clearly. If you really just watch the beginning of the show, he just has a terrible time. It's like he couldn't focus or something. It was really weird. And I mentioned this to someone else and they said, well, maybe he was being targeted, like during that show to mess with him. But if you go back and watch it again, you're going to see what I meant in case you missed all that. But this is what goes on. People don't realize what podcasters sometimes go through, those of us, right? So we can be doing a show and we can be in great shape, everything before the show starts. And then you jump in. It's like jumping into cold water or something. You jump into a show and suddenly, your whole life is a mess because you can't get it together, but you can't act like you can't get it together, right? So anyway, I'm just saying that, of course, there's a lot of BS going on with these podcasters, and they are, I don't know what it's like because I'm not, in that boat. I don't have a split. I don't have, something saying, oh, say this or don't say that, or, all that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know you've always come right out. You've not no bullshit going on with you. That's what all of us love about you. But, Sean Ryan, both of us were former Navy SEALs, CIA contractors. And so I know the mind, and
Yeah.
yeah, he does great shows. He's
Yeah.
had amazing guests. It's amazing, how quickly he rose to the
Oh,
top.
yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. Like real
studio
quick.
and all the people. I was like,
Right.
oh, okay, Sean.
Yeah.
But
I mean, he basically is doing my job, because
he
they
is.
won't
Yeah.
let any whistleblowers
That's what
talk
you should have. You should
anymore.
have like that studio, but
Right.
they've suppressed you and crushed you, but you keep working your way back up. So it's great.
Yeah. I'm
You and
like
me
that
both.
Energizer bunny or something. But
Yeah.
so, okay, back to the Anunnaki. So this is the key, is really understanding where they came from. Now, what's interesting in the link up that other people wouldn't necessarily make is with Yuri, because Yuri, back in those days in the 70s, he claimed that his powers were not from him. They were coming from elsewhere, but no one believed him back in those days. And I don't even know if Targan Pudov believed him, but somehow he went to SRI and got tested and various things. So they did make friends with him. He's not an easy guy, apparently, if he senses something off. But they were successful back then. And then this book was written by, it's called Uri Geller, The Mysterious Something of Uri Geller. And I put it on my website and on my articles and stuff, in case people want to read it. It's fascinating. And it's all about how Andreja got involved with Yuri and how they sort of lived the testing in a way, like every day, and they were going through things, but they eventually made contact with this race of beings, okay, that were coming through the tape recorder with a voice, okay, and talking to them. Okay, sometimes longer stuff and sometimes shorter stuff. But it was an ongoing investigation, and it was clearly to prove, these beings wanted to prove to humans that these things were possible, okay? That you could teleport things from one dimension to another using your mind, that kind of power. So it's fascinating if you're interested in this kind of thing. And unfortunately, Andreja has passed on, because he was a really great asset for Yuri in his travels, if you want to call it that. And so I'm just saying that understanding, now they came across in their writings stuff that he, was written down by Andreja in the book, saying that they wanted something from humans. It's very interesting. They say, you have to read it carefully, but they basically were saying, we need you to do something for us. And then I started, I don't know, thinking about this, and I thought, this is really interesting, because this goes back. It takes the actions on Earth of the Anunnaki back to the Pleiades and why they left in the first place. We get stories, right? And you never know which story is the true one and all that kind of thing. But when I looked at that and I thought, what could they possibly want from us, whoever these beings are? But if, let's say, hypothetically, they are who I think they might be, which is at least a branch of the Anunnaki, then I thought to myself, well, what if your mission was to leave and become rogue from the Pleiadians? Maybe that was their intention all along. I know this is going to sound wild, but wrap your mind around this idea. So the Pleiadians have been fighting the Draco reptilians going back eons, and even William Tompkins said that they wanted the humans, and that they helped protect and create us on some level, that we were like their cousins or something, or kind of their brothers and sisters, and they wanted us to be their advanced team to protect, so that we would be the front with their enemy, which is so they're kind of self-serving in that sense. You understand? And I know people are going, "Oh, the Pleiadians are so good, and they're blonde and blue-eyed." And what, it's just like nonsense, right? So they had a motivation, and I think what has really come down is that that makes sense of what the statement was to Andreja, which is they need to prove that their experiment was good and viable, and that they were successful at their experiment. Okay, so they need humans to somehow come into some self-realization as to who we really are and our ancestral lines or whatever, going back to the Anunnaki, who go back to the Pleiadians, you see?
Right.
And then if you want to outfit, what do you need if you want to actually create like I don't like to call us a sub race, but alternative race, whatever, another race of beings that would take some of the heavy lifting of the battles with reptilians, you understand, and Draco off your shoulders. Well, you need a fighting warrior race, right? But how do you get the race coming from, perhaps the race coming from the Anunnaki and the Pleiadians, that combination of genetics wasn't quite, that they themselves weren't even quite as warlike as they needed to be to beat the reptilians head on. And if they wanted an advanced race, what would they do? They would take a Draco reptilian hybrid and basically genetically splice them with this race. And I believe, my understanding is the original humanoid humans came from Lyra, and that we were not warrior-like at that point. But it is the Anunnaki that brought in the reptilian genetics into our race. And that's why we have the child trafficking and all the stuff, where one part of our sort of group is actually got too much reptilian DNA, and they're now feeding on the other half. You understand?
Yeah.
Where I'm going with this. So I'm not saying I'm right. All I'm saying is that one thing to do when you listen to these stories of the past is not go down the little fantasy of Adam and Eve in a garden, okay? But to understand that invasion is genetics. That's how and they're known for this throughout the galaxy. The reptilians and Draco are expert geneticists. So that's how they invade. Every time they land, they colonize, they invade a species is through genetics. Okay, that's their deal. So just saying, these are hypothetical, conjectures, but the evidence and the trail of evidence is very, very clear, at least to me. And then when you go back to this sort of the talking about the nine and what they were involved in, and that's a long story. Did you ever get into investigating the nine?
No, I never did. And but the Lyrans, that's very interesting. Yeah. I've never heard that. I know they're here. There's many
well, that's a more ancient race, even. That's also one portion of the Lyrans is the lion beings.
Human feline, right?
Yeah. So and I can relate. I relate to that a lot.
Yeah, obviously. So I was going to ask you, are you Lyran?
Yeah. So I have been told
that would make sense. My spirit animal is a black panther. So maybe there's some Lyran going on in my backgrounds too. I bet some.
Well, if you go to Egypt and you travel around, and then you get to the forgetting the name of the statue, but it's a female lion.
All carved.
Sorry.
Is it the Hathor? No,
not Hathor.
Yes, you're talking about the Karnak, where you go into that one temple, small temple.
Yes, yeah. It's on the side of Luxor. It's a little tiny, but it is the warrior queen.
Goddess. Yeah.
Yeah, and she factors in the early days of Egypt a lot. And if you see, I lead tours of Egypt. So if you look at the Pantheon, basically painted on and still remains in temples like Abydos and various other ones. You can see that they actually have steps. So they have beings on steps. And as you go up the steps, you get to the highest step. And the highest step is always, the female lion, right? It's the lion beings. They were the first.
Okay.
So just saying how this all plays out if you start to connect the dots, that's all.
Yeah. So she was a warrior goddess. And the way they get her to calm down is they had the beer. Now, a lot of people don't realize the Egyptians had beer, and it goes way back. And then they colonized Scotland and some other places in UK. Ireland. That's it. Ireland. And they started making beer. And, the Scots have the kilt. Well, the Egyptians had the kilt before the Scots did. So there's like this,
That's right. There's
all around the world, there's all this
weird connection between Scotland and Ireland and Egypt, as well as the United States, the Phoenix area and Southwest,
and the
hidden Grand Canyon,
Grand Canyon, right? Exactly.
Underground. So there was a pole shift and also a land shift at some point, which I think is how that all came about. But I don't know if I've ever said this, but I actually went to Ireland to speak, and it was my first time in Ireland.
That's right.
And I woke up in the morning. I arrived in darkness, and Sekhmet. Yeah, absolutely. That's the name of the.
Yeah, and so she was a warrior goddess in the temple that you're talking about. She's holding a lotus in front of her heart, so she brings that love, and everybody that goes there, and I've been there. It's like it's amazing.
Very powerful.
Pictures there, you'll see orbs and all these energies in there. It's amazing. Yeah,
and you have to actually pay extra to get the guards to let you in there.
Right.
And my our guides always get us over there. Nice. But you have to be quite careful because they actually try to hide certain things from you in Egypt. Okay, very consciously. They're under the guards. They're under orders to hide stuff from humans. Still to this day, it's just hard to believe, but it's true. But I woke up in Ireland. I had arrived in darkness. I don't know why. I just got out of bed and I just threw open my curtains, and I fully expected and sort of did have a vision of Egypt right outside my window. I saw like these pathways and these huge, palm trees and all this. And then when I sort of, came down to earth, I realized that it wasn't like that at all. But I saw it like a vision in front of me. It was amazing. So I know the connection, front and center of Ireland, and I imagine Scotland as well, to Egypt and to that whole group of humans or humanoids or whatever you want to call them that settled our planet. So anyway, I just came here today to talk about this, what's going on in Iran with regard to the Stargates, but also the current battles. So, a lot of people are afraid we're going to have this false blue beam thing, which Randy Kramer's the real guy who actually went on stage. He's a Marine, Randy.
Oh yeah.
So he went on stage near Yom, and I was at the conference as well. And he announced that the military was fed up. They wanted to out all the real technology they're using to bring the rest of humanity up to speed. And they were going to actually stage a false alien invasion kind of scenario. The trouble is that we already have aliens here. And so some of the aliens can help them do this, okay? And they can also do it with CGI. And one of the reasons they were going to stage it was to show that they could win them in battle, on TVs, like for people to think that, okay, we're not so much, at the mercy of these beings. But then they were going to eventually release the truth. That's what he said it would happen. So I at the time I was in the audience, and I sort of challenged him and said, "How are you going to have a fake alien invasion when the real ones are here?" And
Right.
he actually kind of lost it and came stomping off the stage and tried to come up to me like he was going to beat the shit out of me. And then somehow something stopped him, luckily. But it was all on camera. Of course, they never released the footage of that experience. But we talked. We were more or less friends anyway. But he, the fact is that people do not. So I don't know why people don't understand. It's both. It can easily be both. Everything we hear, everything we see, everyone wants to go, oh, it's right or it's left, but it's not. It's both. And of course, the white hats have tapped into that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you get the positive and the negative, but this is what is going to materialize. So there's lots of evidence to this effect. There's lots of remote viewings to this effect. And like I say, I'm even going back to the Wingmakers material, which I often reference because I know James, who created it. And he is one of the ACIO who were enhanced their own intelligence and are a sort of a pocket part of the Illuminati, people that are running this place. In case you don't know that about James. Anyway, just saying that this situation it's just, I don't know. I wanted to come here and be a voice on the one side where everyone else fears to tread and just say, hello, we are fighting them. The reason we keep ending up back in Iran and, they don't make peace and just shut the fuck up and, do their thing is because it's not just Iran. It's these alien races who have decided to come in, and they are very likely, some of them at least, under the direction of the Anunnaki. And of course, the Anunnaki are not only one group. I think that they have more or less split on some level. There's some breakaway that's actually doing good, and there's a breakaway that's, doing the negative, the usual rule over humans, tell them what to do, to come and whatever.
So this alien invasion, that's interesting. So you're thinking, and the remote viewers are kind of seeing the same thing, that it's a war between the good and the bad aliens.
It is. It's a huge war between them, and we're in the middle of it. But we have always been in the middle of it. This is actually not new information, but the remote viewers are now seeing it. Courtney Brown has really emphasized that. He and his viewers have said very clearly, there's the good guys and the bad guys. Well, the bad guys want to take us down or order us around or use us as slaves, etc. Whereas the good guys are trying to prevent all that. They have made the interesting sort of statement that the SSP, which is also split, as William Tompkins said in his testimony, between reptilians and Pleiadian control, which goes back with NASA from eons, but at the same time that they are mainly run, my understanding, right or wrong, have been mainly run by the dark side aliens for the NASA coming forward. Since the time of William Tompkins, when he talked about that, he said that they had kind of, taken over NASA for quite a while.
Right.
Which is true. The Pentagon, I was just reading something, I'm part of a small news group, and they were saying that, the Pentagon has been run by Satanists going way back, which is probably true. So this is not a simple war, but it is on the ground. It is coming to the ground, in your face, to a location near you.
Now, do you think that NASA? Because I think there's been a lot of feeding of disinformation. Some of it true, but I believe that we did go to the moon. Thank you. So a lot of people are like, they jump on these conspiracies that that's seeding into the consciousness, and people are like, yeah, we never made it to the moon. And I hear truth.
Yeah, well,
podcasts are saying we've never been to the moon. guys, come on.
I know,
You
but
gotta have open
this is
mind.
again the black and white nature of
Yeah,
reality that has
yeah,
never been true. It's both. Okay,
good point.
the first thing, one of our top whistleblowers, one of the first ones we ever had, he went by the name of Henry Deacon. He said we went to the moon, but we had help, and it made perfect sense. Like we didn't even argue over it. The fact of the matter is that the evidence is substantial. But William Tompkins also said that. Okay, so all those years later,
Hmm.
after our Henry Deacon said that to us, he came along and said the exact same thing. It makes perfect sense. Okay. Now
Totally.
I work for JPL, and I've actually looked at the LEM in person that was there, one of them, and I'm like, this is a tin can. What are you kidding me? This is a joke. It is a joke. Okay, I'm sorry to say. That's it. The fact of the matter is they didn't go inside that thing, okay, except for photo ops, whatever was necessary, and maybe not at all. You see what I'm talking about. You see how it's the same thing as what's happening right now. They hide the real truth, and they've been hiding it for so long that people are so uninformed. And the people that watch Camelot, of course, know our work from all those years back.
Oh yeah.
But it's very interesting. I was just watching this interview that Cold Heart did with this border guard. It's kind of making the rounds out there. You might have seen it, and he was in the Tucson, I guess, area that the border with Mexico. So his job was that part of that, and they saw anomalous stuff there. Okay, and everyone reported on it, but they kept it secret. They wouldn't say anything. They wouldn't let people do anything about it, and he tried for years to bring that information forward. And I guess he got threats eventually. And I guess his story goes back, years ago. I don't think it's a recent story. So it just goes to show you that if given half a chance, if people will come forward, and ask and risk something, hopefully not their lives, but risking something to tell the truth, that we will move along much faster. And of course, it's my motivation. I'm very motivated to influence the white hats through Juan and others to come forward, to come clean. I'm glad that I know that they're making these steps. Trump is making these steps, as far as I'm concerned, under orders. Now, whether they're under orders from the Anunnaki or from some other races that want this thing out, I'm not sure. I don't know that kind of detail, but it's very, very interesting and important to understand that they're actually on a timeline. They have to get this information out to the public by a deadline, is my understanding. Do you know
Wow.
that? Have
I,
you thought
I didn't
that?
know that. It seems like things are racing to a head. It's I think there's going to be some problems. I think the bad ETs they still have power. They still control Antarctica, and I've heard there's like 3 earthquakes in Antarctica a day now. Of course, they're throwing some back at us, as we just saw in Venezuela. So it
Yes.
is now. Will they be able to take out California, which would be horrific? But we have to be aware that there is a war going on, and there's still this capabilities that both sides have. The good guy side does have a lot of capabilities, but like you were talking about, the dark guys have a lot more, fighters than we do. So that's crazy.
It is. And I can tell you that I have had many dreams of the future that I think are
Yeah.
guiding me. And one of those is kind of fascinating. I live in LA. I mean, not in LA, but I actually live north of LA. So I'm about 40 miles away from the center of LA, whatever you want to call that. But I had a dream several years ago now. I don't know, 3, 4, or 5, but it was that I'm up on a bluff, like one of the cliffs overlooking like Santa Monica area,
Mhm.
and I'm in a Jeep kind of thing, like a military Jeepish thing,
Okay.
and a guy is driving it, and we're looking down on the beach, and there's those, those sandbag things. There's all those military kind of like sandbag things all along the beach,
Okay.
and troops, tons of troops. And that was my dream. Like it's a dream vision kind of thing. So I have definitely seen this coming. Okay. Whatever. When I have these dreams, a lot of times if I see it really clear, they do happen.
Yeah.
So it hasn't happened yet, but I'm still here for, even though people say, you got to get out of there, all that kind of thing. Now, I know that we're going to have 2 major earthquakes. One is going to be located in San Francisco and one in LA, of course.
That's what I see too. Yeah.
And I don't think I'm going to be in them, but I am somehow, I'm at least in my viewing of it, I have actually, not been right there, but I've seen exactly what's happening. Like I've seen that in San Francisco before that one happens, those people are going to get something like 24 to 48 hours notice to get out of all those little hills on San Francisco, to just get out and leave. They're going to have to leave if they want to even save their lives or whatever you want to call it. And bridges are going to crumble.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen this, and I have seen in LA. I saw LA. What I saw was the land is going to go like this. It's going to go like that, like I don't know, a wave, turn into a wave. The earth is just going to. I mean, it's just big. And I don't know if it's, I don't want people to think, oh, it's true necessarily. That's why I haven't talked about it much. This is kind of a unique.
Yeah, there's a lot of timeline jumping right now. It's really hard to. I've been spot on a lot of my predictions, but it's really hard now because timeline, wars, jumping, all kind of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I guess there's some kind of video out there right now. It's probably just CGI, but there's an Elvis Presley concert and someone's there with an iPhone, recording or something like that. So that's kind of spreading out there. Now, I think it's false information, but they're trying to seed the consciousness that there is, timeline jumps, and, you can go into the past, go into the future, and all kind of crazy stuff. We know that. We've talked to people. I've experienced that myself in the Super Soldier program, but we as a collective aren't quite aware of that yet. So I think they're starting to see the consciousness a little bit on that level.
Yeah, I think actually I had sort of this weird dream when I was seeing across to the other line while I was standing in this one. That was weird. And but I have also seen I don't know if it'll happen, but a precursor to the big LA one will be these giant pandas, black and white pandas, are going to be shown on TV. I don't know if they're here visiting in a zoo or they just happen to show up on the TV, but that's a signal that the big one is coming in LA. That's what I saw. Now, that doesn't mean it's accurate. I just want to say, but interesting symbolism and pretty unusual. I mean, that, you're not going to mistake that sign actually for anything else if and when it happens.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be when it does go, there'll be, the Cascadia goes, so tsunami, and and San Andreas, the Hayward Fault. So it's going to be like a domino effect on all of them.
Yeah. Now, I'm not positive of this, but I think the San Francisco comes first and then LA. Okay. And I will say that, yes, it's the Juan de Fuca fault is going to trigger Mammoth, not Mammoth, but yes, Mammoth. But Yellowstone, and Yellowstone is connected to all the other top volcanoes on the West Coast. Mount Rainier and all those different ones, including Mammoth, that will come active again when this happens. A lot of people say, they think Mammoth is a dead volcano, but it's not.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I actually, I'm an earth sensitive, so I can tell when I go into an area with volcanism. I feel it on my body. And not long ago, I went to Hawaii, which is Honolulu, Hawaii. And there's a major volcano there, of course, but they say it's dormant. But when I went there was lots of areas that had sulfur coming out of the ground, which is a real sign of an volcanic activity. And they closed this whole hiking mountain. We were going to go there hiking, and that was just deserted. And they will not reopen it. And they don't tell you why. Yeah. So this is, anyone listening to me, I don't want to make people paranoid. I loved Honolulu area. I really resonated with it. But I did not expect to come across volcanism. So that place is not.
Usually that's the big island, Hawaii, and all the other islands have already gone through that. But that's interesting because there have been other people that have told me the same thing. That
really okay. Yeah. So and I don't know how well that city and everything, but they have a very strong, very rich, wealthy group there, and they have also quite lower class people, the way they live, and they're like right next to each other. It's so weird. Like you drive down a street and it could be, millionaires and billionaires, and then you go one more street over and it's like, very lower echelon. So
billionaires have bought islands at Larry Ellis and so they're all out in Hawaii. So something's going on, but they're not in Oahu like you're talking about.
That's
and
right.
They're not on the Big Island either. So they have, Larry Ellis bought his own island.
I know. Kauai. Now, Kauai does have a volcano, and it is active, contrary to what they tell you.
Really?
It is actually next to the island. So it's not in, the one that's active is next to the island of Kauai, and it's somewhat submerged. So that's why people are not aware of it. But I could feel volcanism there. So that place is also not out of the reach of any of the stuff that might happen. We're entering a phase of lots of earth changes. It does appear to be the case. And
that goes back to, how we started this with the Sumerians, because in your article, excellent article, I highly recommend it. Everybody should go read that. It's a really quick read, and you can watch the videos. The videos are fascinating too. But you talk about how in the Bible and Sumer and all that, they were basically advanced, and in the Bible, it's like, and then there was light, and no, they were talking about the end. So the cultures and the civilizations were coming to an end, and they were being restarted eventually. But in Sumer, everything was advanced. Super at our level advanced.
Yeah, there's much evidence that the Sumerians were they were already fully developed as a civilization when they came to the earth. They brought everything with them.
Right.
And that they
back to restart
from another group that we don't even know who they are.
Restarting.
Yes.
So there's been multiple, cataclysms, and some of them have been directed. We've seen Tartaria. Obviously, that was directed destruction of Tartaria. So over time, it looks like Sumeria was, the flood stories and all that kind of stuff. It was isolated to that area, to the Iran area, and so forth. And then people, rediscovered it. It's like, oh, there's a lost, civilization. And it's like, no, they were advanced, totally advanced.
Very.
Yeah. So that's a good. That's very, very good. You describe that. and put that out there. It's very good. And
Thank you.
we're here on another one of those potential destructive phases that Earth goes through.
Yes. Yeah, it does appear. It does appear that I have seen, I've seen volcanism and all that kind of stuff. I've seen actual volcanoes erupting. I saw Mount Rainier erupting as part of this trend. But yeah, so some people have been predicting this for a long time. I think that it's not going to be extinction level. That's my information. That all in spite of all the earth changes. So you could be of course, in a place where you get hit right there. But if you don't live in the exact area, then you're not going to be, taken out. But there will probably be a fair amount of death and destruction, if you want to call it that, around the world as these things come forward. Now, some of them are man-made, so they will be triggered by the Illuminati or which are, of course, a part of the Anunnaki. So that's kind of actually one group.
Yeah, and the giants. We see all the old temples. They had room for giants to walk in, and so even more recent in Venice. They have giant doors, and Rome had giant doors, and so they've been around a while.
Oh yeah, definitely. So anyway, that's probably a good enough overview of stuff, but there is lots more evidence coming forward of all these things that I've been talking about and you've been talking about for years. So that's actually, that kind of takes a load off my shoulders, so to speak, so that I can not have to be quite so on the trail as much as I was, but I still just keep on it, anyway, because I guess that's just how I'm built. But I think that, that I don't see like a negative future for Earth, actually.
No, we're going to go through this a period of time, especially next year. Next year, I think is going to be even more intense.
That's what they say. Yeah, that's what they say. Well, when I moved into this apartment, I just only moved here very shortly ago to save money. And it's not really to my liking to be here, but for now. So the thing is that I think it was the first morning I slept here or something. I came out of a sleep and I heard the words, there's going to be a massive earthquake.
Yeah.
So it hasn't happened yet. I'll be surprised if I'm in it, but stranger things that I have been in lots of.
You might be in it. You'll weather it. I think that we might be on the verge of one in California, but it won't be the big one next year. I think it's going to be the big one.
Yeah. That's kind of my feeling as well. We're not quite at the big one, but I do think that there will be the one maybe that I was being told about and maybe even had to move here to deal with, because this area that I'm in is a pretty safe, everything is relative, but safe-ish place now.
Yeah, definitely. And here's your Project Camelot .com portal, Project Camelot portal.com.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yep. And we'll put that in the description box, and I'll drop it in the chat right now. So
I have a link there for my Substack, and I write articles all the time over there. So I'm also I post them on my site if I can remember to do so. But they definitely go to Substack if you want to see the article when it first comes out. And then I post it on my Telegram. My Telegram is highly active, and I'm posting there daily. And also in x.com, I post there daily. So
nice. Very good.
Yeah.
And so thanks a lot, Carrie. Again, we appreciate you had a huge audience, over 1,800. So I'm sure this get a lot of views like they always do, because we went off on some areas that are very interesting to people. So thank you so much for all that you do and share. We appreciate you, and lots of love, and everybody that's watched this, share it wide, and Carrie, donate to Carrie, help her out. So
Yeah, please.
not
Thank
easy
you.
doing this. All right. So
Yeah, I would really appreciate that. Yeah, it was great to see you and Tracy in person, live
yeah,
in
the
person.
fraud
For
event. Yeah, that was great. Good to see you.
Fraud
Definitely.
Fighters thing, and I guess Juan's doing another one in September, I think it is.
Yeah.
So
We registered